Hello friends, this is Scott, and I'm down here at the homestead, and I'm very excited about today's video because it's finally about making compost. Now, of all my garden passions, I love to grow my own food, but I love to build soil. And the prices you get when you go to the store and try to buy fertility that isn't complete fertility, which has no organic life in it, it's very expensive. And so why not make your own from the raw materials that you create on your own homestead, or get from neighbors and things like that. Now, this is a hot composting process that I'm going to start on, and this will be the very first video of this process because, again, this is a 3-bin system, and I'm not going to be able to show you all of that today. I will do a condensed video, after I've gone through a season, and make a, little bit, more complete and thorough video in one video on how to make compost. But this is phase 1, which is building the initial pile. There's lots of people make compost in many, many different ways. None of them are wrong. I see, labels of videos that say, oh, don't make this mistake with your compost, that mistake. Yeah, you can make mistakes. You can make it anaerobic, which it gets stinky and slimy and things like that, but it can be fixed, okay? All organic matter breaks down and can become a great additive for your soil at no cost other than, collecting materials and, doing the work. And hot composting is work. I did do a video last late fall, early winter, where I was collecting raw materials and getting ready for the hot composting process. But, I got out today and I was able to mow and collected enough grass clippings that we could actually show you something here to get started. Now, again, this is a 3-bin compost system. And the reason we want hot compost, okay, what happens is it's a combination of brown materials, green materials, air, and water. That's as complicated as it is. But there's a kind of formula on ratios, and everybody's got a little bit of different formula. I've been doing this for many, many years. I used to run a business called Urban Compost Systems, where I was at the farmers markets and I taught people how to compost. And this is, for me, by far the best way to make hot compost as quick as possible. You can have compost in 4 to 6 weeks, depending upon what you're putting in your materials, what materials you're putting in the bin, I should say. So, everybody making compost has their own, ingredients, their own trade secrets. But for me, it's very simple. I want 3 parts brown to 1 part green, and all I need is air and water, okay? When you're first building the pile, it's all going to be in layers before you mix it, okay? And it'll still heat up, but where the green and the browns touch, but it's not going to totally mix up yet until you mix it and you flip it in your second bin, okay? I think the biggest secret to my compost and making it fast is I don't make huge layers, okay? So I would say 3 parts brown, 1 part green. Brown is leaves, anything brown, dead, okay? I want about 8 inches of brown, okay? And then I only want about 2 inches of green. And then I put water on it, wet it, and then I put another 8 inches of brown, approximately 2 inches of green. It doesn't have to be exact, okay? And then add more water and stuff. Now, the air is added when you mix the materials, but obviously when you're building the pile, you're adding air because, as you're building it. So it'll start decomposing, and actually, before you even mix all these layers, it's going to get pretty hot in there anyway. But when you mix it and you turn it, which is basically flipping the materials from the first bin to the second bin, it creates intense heat. And what that heat does is it kills weed seeds and pathogens. Now, I've seen my heat get up as much as 170 degrees, which is a little too hot, okay? It'll actually bake the material. What it'll do is it'll bake it for days, so it's like a slow cooker. You're just baking. And then when that material cools down, okay, the material will shrink as it's getting consumed by the organic life. It's going to, all that heat is going to kill weed seeds and pathogens, okay? And then all the organic life really can't live in that kind of temperature, so it'll all move to the outside. So it's very critical when you first build a bin, you don't add earthworms and things or red wigglers because there's no place for them to go, okay? They'll try to get to the outside and you'll probably just fry all your worms, okay? Once you have multiple bins going though, the worms can escape. They can go to somewhere where it's cooler, and then when that material, starts cooling down after the big heat up process, it'll move back in and start consuming and doing its magical work. So it's a fun process, but it is work. And again, a lot of people don't want to do the work. Okay, so I just showed you on my last video that was all about static bins, where you just pile all this material in, don't even worry about really the ratios, and just let it sit. And let it sit for a year or 2 years, and then you can screen it and you've got good compost. This is production compost. This is to make compost for a bigger garden, and because again, you never have enough compost. And if you try to buy it, or you need to buy it, it's hundreds of dollars. And so this is a way you can do it with a little bit of work, and you don't have to incur that expense. You can get a little bit of exercise, and you can use all the raw materials that are around your garden. Now, on this homestead, I will do a very comprehensive video on once I have all the systems established, because I'll have 10 to 15 different ways to make compost here. But again, hot compost is, to me, the fastest, most efficient way to make compost and get the quantity of compost. Again, you have to collect leaves because in the summer, where's the brown? I don't see any brown out here other than what I collected in the fall and having the bags stored for me. Okay, I have plenty of green, but I don't need a lot of green. Again, it's 3-part brown, 1 part green. Okay, and air and water. That's all we need. So I'm going to show you a close up here. I'm going to go into voiceover mode and I'm going to show you kind of how I make compost. But again, this is the first video of how to make the first bin, how to build the first bin. Okay, and then we'll have subsequent videos as we turn this bin and we start the next bin, and we'll just keep on marching down to the point of screening, having finished compost, and then being able to use that compost in the garden. So again, I'm going to go to voiceover mode, but just to show you this process, because it's not going to take me very long. But I want to show you the layers. But again, they're not huge layers. I'm not going to make big old layers of brown with only leave green on top, because that's not going to be really hard to mix. Okay, again, approximately 8 to 10 inches of brown, 2 to 3 inches of green. Add water. Another layer of brown, another layer of green, add water. Okay, simple as that. Okay, let's get started. Well, when you have chickens and you let them free range, they're always in your business. And here's my Americana that she's coming over here to eat some of those grass clippings. So I hope I still have 2 inches of green on top there. But yeah, anyway, got to get her out of the way. And she likes a nice pet too. Very tame bird. Again, 5-year-old bird or more. So. But here's the layers. I always start with brown on the bottom because I want to soak up material, any moisture. There's 2 inches of green, another 6-8 inches of brown, another 2 inches of green. Again, the materials will settle, and those layers will get smaller, but that's how you get started. Now, this is a 3-bin system that has removable slats in the front. Now, this bin is old, and to refresh this bin, all I need to do is go buy some more fence slats and cut them to size. But I'm just going to use what I have for right now. But I'm just going to build it up to the level that I need it to be. But again, it's a very simple process, but there's enough, I think, to start with, so you can still see kind of what's going on in. So I'm going to add a little water, and I have a hose going into the horses or the cow water, so I'll be pulling that hose over here in a minute. But yeah, I'm not using a ton of water. I'm just doing enough to get that material moist. I don't want it to be anaerobic, which is too much water. I just want it to be moist. And Mother Nature will do the rest as long as it has a consistent moisture. But here we go. It's approximately 6 to 8 inches. I'm not gonna measure it, but in my wheelbarrow, again, I was able to do a little mowing, and so I do have some grass clippings, and that was what stopped me from getting started on this process before now, was because I haven't had a chance to mow and collect any grass clippings. So we'll put a few more in there just to get it leveled out. But again, I'm adding in about 2 or 3 inches of green. And again, this process, I can build as much as I have green. That's pretty much where we're at right now. As you see, everything's green up in the background there. So yeah, not a huge layer. I'm going to add some more slats or a slat or 2 just to make sure that the material stays in the bin. And then I did give myself 3 buckets of water, so I'll use another bucket here. And each layer, I use approximately a bucket's worth of water. It's not an exact science. But remember, I did put brown on the bottom because it'll leach up anything that leaks all the way through all the layers. I don't want green on the bottom because that'll just kind of get slimy and get anaerobic. So again, the top or the bottom of my bins, I always start with brown, and then the top of my bin, as I cap it, I'll cap it with brown too. So when I flip that material into the next bin, it'll have brown on the bottom again. So yeah, I brought that little round there. It's just a plastic round that I've been using at my Salt Lake residence. And I just bring that down, and it makes it nice to store the leaves. And I'm hoping that because it's black and not see-through, that the cows will not see the leaves, so they won't come over here and eat them all. But we'll see if that works. But yeah, the cows haven't seen me doing this yet, so they haven't been over here to investigate. But again, another layer of brown and another layer of green. And I got my last bucket of water here before I start using the hose. And just wetting the material. And again, these are layers. It will heat up where the layers are touching, but it's until we mix and flip the material into the next bin. When all that material gets mixed in together, it'll really heat up. But you're going to see toward the end of this video, I wish I had my thermometer with me, but I'll be describing how hot it is because it's uncomfortable to touch when you put your hand down in the bin, even the next day, even a few hours after building this bin. But yeah, just keep on swimming. Again, I'm going to show you the whole process of building the bin. It doesn't take that long. But I just wanted to do one bin. I don't have enough material to make this a heaping pile, and I always want to heap it because as you as the material breaks down, it will shrink. And by the time you get to your third bin, the material will probably be about maybe 2/3 to 1/3 of what it was originally. So you will lose volume. So you might as well start with a lot just at the beginning, and then as it shrinks, you'll end up with finished compost at the end. So, yep. And here's the hose. Again, I got that water trough for the animals all filled up, and I'll just use the hose because that's the easiest way rather than hauling buckets. Again, not trying to go crazy with the water. I just want to make sure that it's all nice and moist. And again, I'm not using big, thick layers. I'm just doing, again, 6 to 8 brown, a couple inches of green, and which doesn't require a ton of water on each layer to get it where it needs to be moisture-wise. So, yep, pretty simple. And just getting her wet up here, and that'll be about good for that. And back to building some more layers and see how many I have here. Again, I did get down to the bottom of the bin. I'm glad I had them stored here because I do want them to break down before I use them or start breaking down. But it gets a little bit troublesome when I get down to the bottom. But because this is a removable or a bin I can just move around, makes it very simple here. I'll show you. I could just get rid of the bin, get down to the bottom, and go from there. But, yep, more green. And just keep on layering, keep on layering. And that's as hard as this is. Again, most of the work is in the flipping. Building is not a huge deal. It just takes a little bit of time. But because these materials are pretty loose, again, the leaves are just, there's no weight to those. And light layers of grass clippings, it won't be the most terrible thing in the world to move the material from bin to bin. Now, being right-handed, I find it easier to start on the right and flip left, for me anyway. So that's how I do it. Again, there we go. We can just move that little plastic bin out of the way and pick up the rest of the leaves. And I'll do a better job cleaning up this area, but I didn't do a very good job in this video. But yeah, right now I'm just worried about building the bin as high as I can, and that'll be determined by how many grass clippings I have. And as you'll see toward the end of this video, I don't have enough yet. So that's as full as I could get it. And again, I've got brown on top, and then I'll mow a little bit more and put another couple layers on there. And then I'll let it sit for a week, and then it'll heat up real hot, and then I'll get it to about that high. I think that's how high I'll build the pile, probably about there. And then after it starts to cool down a little bit, I'll flip it into the next bin, and it'll heat up again in this bin, and it won't quite get as hot, but it'll still get up to 150 degrees probably. Bake it again, and then by the time we flip it to the third bin, it'll heat up again, and it just won't be quite as hot. And then we'll screen the material and see what we have. Again, 4 to 6 weeks with this type of material is probably what I'm going to have here to have finished compost. And I'll just keep on the process, keep on swimming. I am going to fill this little plastic bin back up, so I'm ready to go. When I do get some more grass clippings, I can just keep on swimming. And I don't like the look of just storing all these bags of leaves just in the yard. So I'm going to store them as many as I can in this one. And as you see those cinder blocks in the back, I'll store the rest of them in my new cinder block static bin once I get the rest of the blocks from Salt Lake down here. That'll be in the next couple of weeks. I'll get all that material down here from the big trampoline pit. And and then I'll be taking dirt from here and filling up that pit in my Salt Lake home. But so there we go. So we've got the materials filled up. I've got it away from the fence a little bit, so hopefully the cows won't be bothering it, but they won't be able to see into the bin. So hopefully that'll help. But there we go. We've got one bin, and it's not quite done, but we've dug into quite a few of the bags of leaves, and you see, you got to collect a lot of leaves because they don't last very long. Well, the cows did finally see what I'm doing, and they came over to investigate. And I think because they look down more than they look up. Hopefully they won't look into that bin too much. But the big cow decided to get into the top of the compost bin. So until they go to freezer camp here in May, there's still going to be a little bit of a problem, but I don't think there'd be much of a problem. And there's a look from the side view. You can kind of see the brown and the green. It's a little hard to see, but you kind of see the layers there. And the cows are not digging into that plastic bin, so hopefully that won't be a problem like it was with those the fencing bins I had. So, they're investigating, though. Next day, though, I come out, and you won't be able to see this. I was hoping you'd see some steam, but I put my hand down here, and you see I move it pretty abruptly because it's hot. I mean, it's probably 160, 165 degrees down the middle. If the weather was cool, you would see steam coming off this. But even, non-mixed, this compost is heating up, and it's already doing its job. So, and you see the material has shrunk down a little bit. Don't know if that's the cows or just the material shrinking. So anyway, well, another joy of having chickens is they like to get out and hang out and have a little bit of a sun and a dirt bath. And they're dusting themselves and enjoying the day. And I need more chickens. I haven't got into that yet. I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. I'll probably just buy some mature birds and just go with that. But more proof, adult cat. And if any of the cats was going to mess with the chickens, it'd be that one. And Willow's not doing anything with them. So, but now, start mowing again, and there we go. Got more raw materials, so we can keep on with the swimming with the compost process. Well, that's the end of phase 1, and I'll be showing you phase 2 on the next composting video. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you learn a lot about making hot compost.